And I'm going to be posting this on YouTube if I can figure it out after the session. So this is Lisa Baker, and it's July 2023. And this is our Freelancers in Pubs monthly Zoom call. And I'm delighted to welcome as our guest today, Danita Sutton, who is the Director of Credentialing at ISMPP, the International Society for Medical Publication Professionals, who's going to be presenting to us today about the CMAP credential, and then taking questions from us, from freelancers, about how this program applies to us, whether we're eligible for it, why we would want to do it, any other detailed questions you might have. So the intention here is that Danita is going to present us some overall overview information about the program and how it works. And then we're planning to leave at least 30 minutes for your questions. So for the most part, we'll try to hold questions until the Q&A. But if there's anything that's just like makes no sense or is really just feels really urgent, I'm going to invite you to put your hand up if you have an urgent question during the presentation. So again, putting up your hand is under reactions at the bottom or side of your screen. Right now, I'd like to invite people to use that feature. Look under reactions for raise your hand, and raise your hand if you're already or have been in the past a CMPP. Okay, so I see me, Susan, and Kate. And that's absolutely cool. I assumed the people who would come today were people who would be interested in finding out more. So that's absolutely fine. So absolutely what should be. So and welcome to people who are still joining. And Danita is ready to get going with sharing her screen and sharing with us about the CMPP program. Okay, I'm going to assume everyone can see Danita's slides unless people go off mute and tell us if you don't. Otherwise, let's stay on mute while Danita presents. And Danita, I think you may be on mute.
Okay, of course I was, because I'm always on mute. Okay, I'll start again. Thank you, Lisa, for inviting me to present to your group. It's a delight to be able to meet all of you freelancers and to talk to you about the CMPP program and the certification exam. I think I know Susan Scott, who's on the line, and I know of Kate, who I know has her CMPP as well, and a few others. If you don't have your CMPP, I think this information will be very useful. If you do, this may be a bit repetitive, so I do apologize. So by way of introduction, I am now the Director of Credentialing for ISMPP, but I have a PhD in pharmacology, and I started out as an academic, like many of you. I went to grad school, obviously, and did a postdoctoral fellowship, and then I decided it was time to get away from the bench, and I joined a medical advertising agency. And following that, after a year, I joined a medical publications agency, and I spent my time in medical publications for, unfortunately, over 20 years, which dates me. I started when I was very young, we'll just say that. And at one point, I did leave the workplace to become a freelancer because my children were growing up and I wanted to spend more time with them. So I did do freelance work like yourselves for about 5 years, doing medical writing and medical direction for various firms. And then I decided I would work for ISMPP because I have been involved with the CMPP program since its inception. I was involved in writing the first exam, and that appeared in 2009. So that just gives you a little background about myself. And now for the CMPP program, as many of you know, it's a professional certification program, and it was developed to promote adherence to high ethical standards and transparency in medical publishing. There was a need, and it was the program and the certification was developed to fulfill that need at the time and continues to fill that gap. So the 4 things we say about the credential and what it certifies is expertise as a medical publication professional, proficiency in good publication practices, commitment to ethical and transparent data dissemination, and leadership in upholding and fostering, as I mentioned, integrity and excellence in all we do. So what does this mean on a practical basis? Well, we believe that the certification enhances your value to your employer, your colleagues, your clients, and it increases for the individual. We believe it increases opportunities, not only for business, but also employment and promotions. We do know, and you all see this, that many companies, when they advertise for example, medical writing positions, they are asking that their candidates do have the CMPP certification. And I love to show this slide that obviously ISMAP is proud of, that CMPPs are on 5 continents right now. There's over 1,400. Obviously, it's probably no surprise that half of them are in North America, mainly the US, and the UK makes up the next highest group. The UK actually, if you're from the UK, they have a very high pass rate on this exam. They tend to do very well, which is interesting and very delightful. Good to know. We have also representation from Asia, not only China, Japan, and India, but also Malaysia, Taiwan, Singapore. We also have 1 candidate in South Africa, and we have another one taking the exam. And we have 2 from Saudi Arabia. So it's a very exciting time for the CMPP program. Now I'll talk a little bit about the exam. There are 2 ways you can be eligible to take the exam. The first option, which many choose, is to hold a bachelor's degree from college or the equivalent or higher, and 2 years of full-time relevant employment. And when we say relevant employment, we mean in the publications or communications industry. I'm saying that because I get many inquiries about candidates who do have graduate school experience and or postdoc experience, but they have never held a position in a pharma company or at a publisher or a publications organization. And those candidates are not eligible if they have no experience in the industry to take the exam. And the reason we adhere to that is because the exam is very application based. And in order to pass it, and those of you who have taken it can attest to this, I hope, you really need to be able to apply your experience and what you've learned in your work setting. So if we have any further questions, I'm happy to take them about that area at the end. Or you can have a high school diploma or equivalent, and in that case, you need 5 years of active employment. After applications are submitted, they're reviewed for eligibility before a candidate is notified that they qualify to sit for the exam. As you may know, we have 2 testing windows per year, 1 in March, 1 in September, and the deadlines are the month before. However, a little secret is that if you submit after the deadline, your application will be reviewed. We don't want to, we want every candidate who wants to take the exam in a testing window to have the opportunity to actually take the exam.
And Danita, this August 1st deadline was just extended
Yes,
to August 7th.
thank you, Lisa. Yes, we have extended it to the 7th for a few reasons. One of which is I'll be on vacation next week, and we may slow down in our reviewing of them, but I will try to keep up while I'm away. 2 exam options. I'm delighted to say that we are rolling out this September is our first offering of the online exam. It's via a remote proctored session that is offered by Pearson, our test vendor. It is the same exam you would take if you went to a test center, and we do have test centers around the globe. However, in some regions, it is more difficult than others to get into an available test center. We've had candidates, for example, from Romania, whose test center had filled up before they could get in. And so it wasn't an option for them to take the exam during that exam window, because Pearson, who is our partner, they are partners to many organizations. So if you go to a test site to take the CMPP exam, it's unlikely you'll be with any other person who's taking the CMPP exam. They'll be taking all types of exams. So for information about the online exam, you can go to the website, our ISMAP website, under certification tab and under exam details. And there is some information about the online exam and a fact sheet, which takes you to a Pearson website that contains several short 3-minute videos about how to prepare your workspace, how to be technically prepared for your online exam, etc. And it's quite easy, except there are some strict restrictions about taking the online exam. For example, not leaving your computer while you're taking it. If you do leave it or commit any other violations, which I know any of you wouldn't, they will stop the exam. And that will be it. And then if you want to take it again, you'll have to pay the fee again. So just if anyone opts to take the online exam, they should definitely, and also look at those videos. And also in the letter, if you choose, when Pearson sends you your authorization email to schedule your exam with instructions, they provide a good amount of detail about what you need to do and know about taking the exam online. So what is the content? Well, first, let me talk about the exam. It's a 150 question computer-based multiple choice exam, as many of you know. Not only does it test general knowledge across all the relevant domains that I'll talk to below, but it also includes application of experience, as Susan knows, because Susan Scott has helped with writing actual items for the exam. It is very application based. So we're not going to ask you what are the 4 authorship criteria in the ICMJE recommendations. On the exam, this is no secret, that's why I'm sharing this information. Obviously, it would test that, but it would be more of a scenario based. And it would ask you if this author would qualify for authorship under either under good publication practice or under the ICMJE recommendations. So those are the types of questions you would see. And as you probably know, there are 3 what we consider competency domains: develop a publication plan, implement a publication plan, and foster ethical and compliant behavior. And the third one is where you'd find your guideline questions. And in the candidate handbook, which I'll show in a minute, the content, it goes into the content in a bit more detail. So under develop a publication plan, it would list tasks that are associated with developing a publication plan that you should be familiar with when you take the exam, and for the other 2 as well. So for scoring, the exam is pass-fail. The raw score, for example, the number of questions a candidate gets correct out of 150 is then converted to a scaled score. The reason for this is that it takes the difficulty of the questions and other factors into account. And it's a way of ensuring, from a psychometric perspective, and I'm not a psychometrician, so I won't get into that detail, but we do have psychometricians who score our exams. It ensures that, for example, if someone took the exam in 2021, they're going to be the same level candidate as someone who takes this exam. So it's kind of equating the exams across test forms as well as across level of difficulty. So this is a best practice in the testing industry. Those who do not pass the exam do receive a letter, and their performance by content domain is revealed to them, so they can highlight, they know the areas where they need additional study. For example, it would say under develop publication plan, you are competent. So you don't need to spend more time on that, but maybe under foster ethical and compliant behavior, you're less competent. So we have several exam resources available to you. We have the candidate handbook that I mentioned, which can be found under the certification tab on our website. And I just put the table of contents, and it does have some sample questions here in the candidate handbook. We also have a mentor program. Our mentors support candidates in their exam preparation. It's a very popular program. Usually by the end of an exam period, I'm running out of mentors. We have mentors in every region. They are meant to provide exam support, questions not only about the logistics of the exam, but how a candidate should prepare. They will, when they work with a candidate, try to gauge what areas of the exam they may need more study in. They will not give out any information about what's the type of questions or what questions are actually on the exam, but they do provide nice support for candidates who wish to work with someone. We're going to be rolling out the option to have a candidate that speaks your native language if you'd rather a mentor, excuse me, who speaks your native language, if you'd like that. And like I said, we have 45 mentors right now across most regions. Some we have more in regions, we have more than others. But we're always constantly recruiting for mentors. And they need to go through an orientation session with me, but you also need to be CMPP certified. So if your CMPP credential lapses, you can no longer be a mentor until you recertify or obtain your certification again. But it's a program worth looking into if you intend to take the exam. We also have study resources on our website. They're divided into a critical reference list, which we believe is probably the most important set of references you should be familiar with. We also have supplemental references that if you want to do some additional reading or work in an area where you might feel like you need more information, you can take a look at those. We also have a list of useful websites. We have developed some test taking tips, just some ideas about ways to succeed in taking an exam, and commonly used acronyms in the industry. Another good resource would be to look through ISMPP presentations that are under the ISMAP archive. So you would go to our website, if you're a member, under the Member Center tab, and you can find archives from ISMAP-Us by year, and also annual meeting presentations by meeting and year. And these can be helpful resources as well. And that's all I have for today. Happy to answer any and all questions. I'll stop my share, Lisa, for now.
So in a moment, I'm going to open the floor for questions, and I'm going to ask people to indicate with the raised hand. So in the reactions, use the raised hand to indicate if you want to ask a question. Before we open the floor, Danita, there are two things I wanted to just sort of cover off with you. One is, let's just say again, what is the discount that's being offered to freelancers? And it's just for this September offering of this exam, right?
Correct. In honor of you setting up this freelancer community, the certification board would like to offer a 20% discount for this exam window, the September 2023 exam, which equates to $460 rather than the $575 exam fee.
And actually, I'm going to have three. Sorry.
Oh, no worries.
The second one, you didn't really get into this, but once someone gets the CMPP credential, they'll have, let's do this quickly, but they have a couple of options for how they continue to recertify on the CMPP.
Right. You can recertify this right now. The CMPP is good for 5 years, your credential, and then you must recertify. You can either recertify by taking the exam again, which would be the same exam that original, candidates who are first becoming certified take, or you can recertify via earning credits. So because it's 5 years, you would need 50 credits, equivalent to about 10 per year, and you can earn those. There's a list on our website of CMPP approved activities, and you can listen to ISMAP. You can attend ISMAP U's, for example. You can listen to them after the fact and receive credit. You can receive credit at the ISMAP sponsored meetings. And also we have probably close to 50 self-study activities that you can do on your own time and earn credit. In addition, if a candidate or a CMPP attends, for example, AMWA or MWA, and they feel like a session they attended is worthy of credit, they can submit a request for credit approval. And we have a recertification committee, and they will review the request and determine how many credits they believe is the session is worth, and also what domain. And then they will inform the candidate. There's something else I was going to mention about that, and now I'm not remembering. It will come to me.
I'm in my
Lisa.
second cycle of recertifying using credits, so I can tell you that, it's like not, as long as once you get used to keeping track of your credits, it's very doable. I see.
Yeah, you do need documentation, for example, registration, or we ask that you take a screenshot of the first slide if you're attending an ISMAP-U, although now you'll receive a certificate of attendance. In the future, we are working on onboarding a certification platform that hopefully will automatically, in some situations, populate your tracker for you. That will be coming in the future, though.
Nice, yeah. And the third thing I wanted to make sure we talk about, because I think this question will come up, is in terms of that, you need 2 years of experience in this industry, in the world of medical publications, pharma-sponsored medical publications, in order to sit the exam. So if you're a freelancer who never worked full-time at a pharma company or a medical communications agency, but rather all your experience in publications has been freelancing, Danita, what would you be looking for that person to qualify to sit for the exam?
Well, if they weren't working for a pharma or in a communications or publications industry, where might they be doing?
I mean, like work? If they've never had a full-time salary position, so their only experience in publications has been as a freelancer working.
That's fine. That's absolutely fine. That experience is eligible. Absolutely. They don't have to be employed. They don't have to be a staff member of a specific company. They just have to show experience developing a pub plan, implementation or fostering ethical and compliant behavior. The application actually asks where you've worked, the number of years you've worked in each position, and the percentage of time you have spent in the 3 content domains. And it has to be the majority of time. I don't give a specific number, because if you say you have 2 years, or you need 2 years experience, but you have 10, but your total time only ends up to 50% in those 3, you would still be qualified to take the exam. Because over those 10 years, your percentages have obviously gone up. I'm not going to go into the math because I'm not a math person. Mm-hmm. But if you only have a year and a half, for example, working as a freelancer with certain companies, you would not be eligible until you have 2 years experience, if that's what you need.
Okay.
Hey, Susan. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, let's take Susan's question. And again, I'll invite you to use the reactions button at the bottom and raise your hand if you have a question. And I'm assuming there are people in the room who are considering whether they're interested in taking the CMAP now or in the future. So I hope you'll kind of get your questions answered here today. Susan, go ahead.
I just wanted to back up really what Danita was saying, that it's very much based on experience. And having been a mentor as well, I've found that people with very little experience in the in the space struggle with the taking the exam and passing the exam. I think it's really important that you have some experience in the various areas, and that you supplement that with reading. But if you come into the industry in 6 months and expect to be able to pass the exam, I just don't see that that's feasible.
Thanks, Susan. And Susan, you were on the credentialing board for, is that correct? Yeah, which administers the CMAP.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we say CMAP. I always say CMPP. So Susan's a great expert here in the room as well. Joanne, what's your question?
Yeah, 2 questions actually, while I'm at it. What is the pass rate? I know because you mentioned it is much higher in the UK for some reason. Just what's the pass rate overall? And then, is every ISMPP member also CMPP certified, or are those 2 separate things?
I'll start with the latter. They're 2 separate entities. There are several ISMAP members who are not credentialed, and but you must be a CMPP. You don't have to be a CMPP member, but you must pay the membership fee to access the exam application. That's a requirement. And the pass rate is consistently since 2009 between 75% and 85%. And it's been consistent over the years, which speaks to the validity and the reliability of the exam, because every year there's a new exam form developed.
To Joanne's question, anyone can join ISMAP, full stop. That's correct, isn't it, Danita?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Anyone can join ISMAP. So, and there's many people who are members of ISMAP who, for whatever reason, have not gone forward to get the CMPP credential. But anyone can join ISMAP. Anyone can attend an ISMAP meeting. There's no qualification to be part of ISMAP.
Correct. And there are a lot of member benefits. You can attend the ISMAP U's at no cost. There's several educational opportunities. So the ISMAP membership provides a lot of good things.
Yeah, and if people are, even if you don't decide to do the CMPP this year, like just joining ISMAP, you get the weekly newsletter, you see all the things that are going on, the podcast, the ISMAP U presentations, all these opportunities, these educational offerings that are available totally remote online. So, and that's a great way to kind of like get your feet into it and consider, doing the CMPP in the future. Other questions? Quiet room.
I could mention that another study resource that we hope to be available in the future is a study, an exam prep webinar and study guide. We are in the beginning the process of working with some CMPPs to develop that material, because we get asked for that a lot, and I think it would be helpful. So in the future, you can look for that coming into fruition, and everyone will be made aware that when that's available. It's just at the beginning stages.
Yes, Vivek. And then Stephanie.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. Hi, Danita. Just a question on the syllabus part. Is the syllabus like updated from the March exam that we took, or because there are a lot of trends coming up in AI, etc. So do we foresee that these would be incorporated in the September exam, or?
They are not in the September exam because
Okay.
the exam is developed at the beginning of the calendar year. From what was, we do exam, we call it item writing. Items are questions. We do that every October and develop new items for the next calendar year's exam. So the September exam, I would say, probably does not include AI. However, we're very aware of it, and we that will be incorporated into the next year's exam. However, just remember that we are talking about the exam is written to those with a minimum of 2 years experience, so that it's not written to advanced members of the industry. It's what is the basics, what do we feel is the basic information and expertise a candidate needs to be certified as a CMPP. So to that point, when you want to recertify, if you recertify via attending for example, attending the ISMAP annual meeting, only sessions that we feel are advanced and beyond basic information will qualify as a session that you would earn credit. So the exam, we have to remember, and we have to remind ourselves when we're writing questions every October, that this is meant to be for someone who is not really advanced in the industry, but has the basic information that we feel the minimum that will qualify to earn the credential.
Sure. Thanks, Danita.
Sure.
And Stephanie.
Thank you. I had pretty much exactly the same question, because I was at a meeting on Monday, I think it was, for the European committee meeting, and it was mentioned about the potential of putting AI into the September exam, and there was a sort of question mark about that. So that was all, but it sounds like it's not going to be there until possibly the next March.
Yeah, the earliest it would be in March, and it will be basic, and it will, AI is changing so quickly. We have to make sure that the items in our database have some sort of lifespan, at least a couple of years usually. So it wouldn't be an area that's changing very rapidly.
Thank you.
Melissa.
Hi, I was wondering, the 150 questions, how long are we given to take the test?
Oh, that's a good point. It's never on my slide. Thank you. It's 3 hours.
Thank you.
And on the exam, it's interesting. There will be some questions that you won't know which ones are experimental, not experimental, that are new and that have just been written, for example. And the psychometricians at PTI, which is our test vendor who scores, they will be looking at how those, we call them items, perform. And if, for example, someone does very, very well on the exam, but is getting that question or a new question wrong, then I will be informed about that and make a decision whether we need to retire that item and never use it again, because it's not performing the way it should. The same is true for the reverse. If many people are not doing well on the exam, but everyone gets a certain item correct, we may consider whether it's too easy or whether that should be on the exam. So not only are items, when items are written, when we get our subject matter experts together every October, and Susan is always one of ours, we try to keep it, she represents Europe right now, but we try to have someone from the APAC region, although someone from the APAC region always reviews the exam for us to make sure there's no issues with language. But when we do write the items, they are vetted by the entire group of subject matter experts. So every single item that is written, a new item, will be reviewed by at least 7 subject matter experts. And even after it's reviewed and appears on the exam, the performance of that question will be reviewed to make sure psychometrically it's behaving properly. And if it isn't, it will never be used again. So some questions that don't perform will be taken out of the scoring. That's too much information, probably. Sorry, I got off on a tangent.
But it does show like the thoughtfulness that goes into maintaining this exam. Vivek, I'm going to let Vicky go since she hasn't asked yet, but we'll continue on. Vicky, what was your question?
Hi, this is my first time here, so nice to meet everyone. I'm just curious, really. I'm just wondering how many CMAP people who've passed actually do go on to recertify. Is it the vast majority that do that?
Actually, I would say maybe half.
Okay.
We do have a retention issue at the moment, and I believe I believe part of it is because it's not immediately obvious, and I'm working with our membership people on this. When individual certification expires, I get a lot of questions about that. So we are going to start individualizing messages. Right now, e-blasts go out that say, hey, if you took the exam in 2020, you need to recertify in 2023. Well, people don't remember they took it in 2020. So instead, we're going to start sending e-blast to those who expire and say, it's your time to recertify. Are you interested? And we are working on retention of CMPPs at the moment.
You know, and of course, people move on. You know,
Yes.
sometimes
Yes.
people's organization sponsored them to get the CMPP, and then 5 years later, they're working in a totally different
Yes,
role. You know, it
absolutely.
could be in pharma, not in pharma. So there's many reasons why people wouldn't recertify. Susan, were you going to add something there?
No, that was the point I was going to make exactly, Lisa, that people move on from publications into other parts of industry and no longer feel that they need to continue with the CMPP credit. But it is the recertification is easier than it used to be. Once you get into the habit of recording your credits, it's much easier than it used to be.
If you ever attend a meeting, that gives you your credits for the full year and more, you know.
Yes. Yep.
Dana, I see you there. I do want to ask Danita and Susan a question that has come up is whether there's any evidence that having a CMPP credential matters to people. And in this room, you know, the question that people might have is whether people in the industry value the CMPP to the extent that they'd be more likely to hire a freelancer for a job if that freelancer was a CMPP. Like, do you have any sense of like how we can demonstrate that, or if we know that?
Not at the moment. I will say that I obviously look at job postings as well as out of interest and etc. And I do see often that CMPP preferred in those. I don't have any feel from a freelancer perspective. Susan, you may, or Donna, you may as well, but I don't at the moment.
Okay, I want to let Dana ask her question.
Yeah, so you mentioned the critical reference list would be a good resource to study. Can you elaborate on anything else that we should kind of focus on that would be helpful in studying for the exam?
All I would say is GPP 2022 is an important element, as well as ICMJE, because those are basically where the guidelines are.
Yeah. You want to know every sentence of GPP, right? I mean, that's like the heart and soul, right?
Yeah, but if you know the GPP 2022 more elaborates and gets into more information, but the basic concepts of GPP haven't changed that much over the years. Yeah.
Donna.
Hi, thanks so much, Lisa. And thank you, Danita. You know, always great. You always do such a great job with the CMPP. You've always been so responsive, and really appreciate everything that you're doing there. Yeah, it really is so much easier now to put in the credits. And I know, you know, we really struggled, what was that, 15 years ago or so, when we were creating and writing the questions.
Yes,
so really appreciate and really so happy to see how much it's grown and how much support there is for everyone. I would agree with you that I do see that more, the CMPP on job postings. And I think that it just shows that somebody is really interested and, you know, committed to doing, you know, good practices in publications development. And so I think it always helps, you know, to see the CMPP. And I was just going to ask Danita, unless maybe somebody asked this earlier, if there probably maybe credits at the AMWA meeting, since I know some of the writers may attend the AMWA meeting in October.
Absolutely. You know, I'm going to be honest with you, Donna. The agenda is so large for the AMROD meeting that we've stopped reviewing every session. But if anyone submits a request for credit approval, it would be approved if it's appropriate, for sure. We're just not including it on the list of approved CMPP activities.
Oh, okay. I know you
If
have.
that would be easier, we can. Usually a few years ago, what I did was I went through the agenda and I chose what I thought the recertification committee might approve.
Mhm.
And we can do that again this year. I'm not remembering when the meeting is. Is it in?
It's in October.
Oh, then we can do that. Yep. I'll write a note for
Yeah.
us to do
Yeah, I
that
think that would be
and put it
great.
on the list. Okay. Yep.
Yeah,
So
so
the-
it's always so helpful to know exactly, what the CMPP
Mhm.
considers. And I don't know if many people would ask, if it wasn't listed there. So thank you. That's great. Thanks,
Absolutely.
Lisa.
The other thing I would mention is, I don't know if any of you have heard about the ISMAP Academy meeting in September. I know there's a discount being offered as well to freelancers, and there will be sessions there that are approved. Even though it's considered a meeting for newer publication professionals, we will be approving, there will be several AI sessions that would obviously be approved. And likely, I mean, I won't say what the recertification committee can do, but I can pretty much predict. And also, so that would be a place where you could earn credits as well.
I'm going to ask Vivek because I know he has a question, but I just wanted to say, for people who don't know Donna Simcoe, I'm so pleased you're here, Donna. Donna's like a big inspiration for why this is happening. This group, Donna for a long time has been creating community, and Donna's a publications consultant. I think is that how you would describe yourself, Donna?
Right. Mhm. And a writer.
And so Donna, I consider myself a writer, but Donna does a lot of publication planning, especially for smaller pharma companies, and leads a group of people who are sort of the only publication professional at their company. Donna's been creating community in that space for years now, and I've sort of been involved or watching that space for many years. And so Donna's a real leader among us people who are independent and working in publications. And if you are not linked to Donna, I really encourage you to link into Donna and kind of pay attention to what Donna does.
Thank you, Lisa. And thank you so much, Lisa, for pulling this community together. It's really growing so fast. You're doing such a great job with it. Thank you. It's really great.
Yeah,
we talked about this years ago, and all of a sudden this year it happened,
Yeah,
Vivek, what was your other question?
Yeah, I think I just sent Donna a LinkedIn invitation. Connect. Yeah. So my only thing was like regarding the duration of the exam. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, Danita. Is it like 2 hours 45 minutes? Because I think the first 10
yes,
15 minutes.
you are. Yes,
Okay.
you're correct.
Okay.
We say
Okay.
3 hours, but the first 15 minutes are to get used to the computer and the options you can do on the exam, on the computer-based exam.
Sure,
that
I
is
just
correct.
wanted to bring
Yes,
up
you're
that.
correct. I took the exam to recertify 2019. And it only took me 2 hours. I mean, if it depends on how much you know and how confident you are. And I mean, when I review the exam, it does take me 2 hours to go through even reading the questions to review an exam. But I mean, 150 questions, some of them you have to think, some of them you're going to know right away, boom. But like, I think Susan would attest to this, and Donna actually wrote questions for the very first CMPP exam, and that's how I know her. I won't date ourselves by saying how long ago that was, but yeah, and others you might have to think about. Now, if you have to think too hard, we don't include that item. We often think about, we don't like items that say A and B, A, B, and C, for example, all of the above, because then it becomes a logic question. And we're not questioning how your logic or how you take a test. We are asking if you know the content. So we are very careful making sure that if you understand the scenario, which is a short scenario, they're not long, they don't take you too long to read, they're very short, a couple sentences, that you can answer the question appropriately and not have to think through too much about, is it both of these answers? Is it all three? That sort of thing.
Monica.
Hi, thank you for doing this and for setting it up. It's been really interesting. I have a very simple question. How long does it take for you to get the results after you take the exam?
We say 4 to 6 weeks after the close of the exam period, because well, it closes the last day of the month usually, unless it's a Sunday, but sometimes the exam is extended. For example, if people are having trouble finding test centers in an area or a region where there aren't a lot, we would extend it maybe until the first week of October or the first 10 days of October. And the results can't be analyzed until everyone has taken the test. It takes PTI, our scoring vendor, 2 to 3 weeks to score the exam and make sure everything looks okay, because they're not just saying, oh, this person got, 100 right out of 150. They're looking at, like I said, they're analyzing the questions. How are certain ones performing? And they're doing psychometrics, which is not beyond me. And then once they get the results to me, I take about a week. So it can be before 4 to 6 weeks, but we say 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay, and do you get the results back by regular mail or email?
Email.
Okay,
It's an email.
thank you.
Yep. So if your email happens to change, it's helpful if I get updated. Otherwise, you won't get your results, and then your badge will be issued. We issue digital badges instead of the quote hard copy certificates. So if your email changes, then your old email will also appear on your badge, and you'll have to be issued a new one. So it helps that just keep me updated on any email changes that occurred during the exam period or after you've submitted your application.
Susan.
Yes, I was going to say about the digital accreditation that you get. It used to be physical badge, but seeing as we don't see each other very much, that wasn't much use. But now it's a digital credit, and it's useful to be able to put that on your business card or on the bottom of your emails, just to show that you've got that that bona fide level of knowledge and experience. I can't say hand on heart that it makes a difference. Nobody's said to me, oh well, I've hired you because you've got a CMPP, but I think it shows that you have some level of commitment to the industry and a level of experience and expertise.
And the fact that it's going global, I think, speaks to its value as well. So the other thing I would say about digital badges is you can post them on social media, and when you post them, you can actually click on the badge, and it will show what the skills required to earn the badge, when you earned it, when it expires, so people can verify that you're a CMPP, and anyone interested, and when you post it, can click on your badge. So it's actually been very helpful, I think. And you can print a hard copy certificate from the Credly. Credly is the organization we partner with, and from their site, you can print a digital badge, a hard copy of your certificate from your digital badge.
And most of us freelancers have websites, right, for our businesses. So for sure, my CMPP badge is prominently displayed on my freelance website. So Danita has a hard stop in 3 minutes, so probably has time for maybe 1 or maybe 2 more questions, and then we can do a little wrap-up chat in those last 5 minutes before the top of the hour. Does anyone have an additional question for Danita?
I maybe just jump in there if there's a space and just get back to this idea of what you mentioned, Danita, about people maybe not realizing that they haven't resat the exam again after 5 years, or whatever the extra update is that you need to do, the reaccreditation. Does that mean that there could be people who are using the CMPP and maybe don't realize that it's expired?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. This is
I've been thinking about that a lot lately, because
Okay.
that's a violation. That's actually an ethical violation. and you could be brought up for code of conduct. We don't check because, quite frankly, I'm the certification department at ISMAP, so I can only do so many things, during my week. But I have noticed, especially with the pandemic, a lot of people's certifications did expire and they did not recertify. And I've noticed that certain individuals are still using it. That's something I will bring up to the board and ask if they want, if we're made aware, we probably just need a communication that goes out to those individuals, because they should not be indicating that they have a CMPP certification, but they may not know too.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
It's interesting
so-
for me because I used to be a hiring manager in a pharma company, and we were hiring writers, and I would just make the assumption if the letters were there that they had the accreditation, but maybe that was wrong. Is there a way a hiring manager could check? Would you just ask for the certificate?
Yeah, you could ask for their badge to see their badge, or I often get from recruiters who hire companies to check different qualifications. I get asked, is someone a CMPP? And I can verify their issue date and expiration date, as long as the candidate has actually signed off on me providing that information.
Sure.
So I do get those questions, probably 10 or 12 a year for people who are moving jobs.
Okay, that's good to know. Thanks for bringing it to my attention. That's great.
Sure.
So Danita, I think we'll let you go unless you have any final thoughts you want to share.
No, I just want to thank you, Lisa, for inviting me and having the privilege to talk to this community, which I think is great. And we're looking forward to seeing more CMPPs among freelancers. And thanks Susan and Donna for their great support and help during my presentation. And anyone can always reach out to me at cmpp@ismap.org or dsutton@ismap.org, and I will get back to you as soon as I can with any questions or queries. And anyone who already holds their CMPP and wants to be a mentor, I saw your chat, Vivek. You just need to fill out a mentor volunteer form, and I will get you going in there. So thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Danita. Thank you for being here today. And everyone else, hold on for another minute if you're able.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye, thank you. Where's Vicky? Vicky, I also wanted to mention, we have like such wonderful leaders in our freelance community. I would say that Vicky Sherwood is another. Vicky, what is your blog that you do?
It's Biomed Badass, it's called. But it was originally around, people thinking about breaking out of academia and into industry. But over the years, because of my role in medical writing and medical communications, it's just evolved more into working in the communication space and in the wider pharma industry as well. So we cover quite a lot of broad topics. I have a lot of freelancers in the community, which is great.
I love the name Biomed Badass.
Yes.
It takes a badass to even name your blog that. So, I love that. Anything anyone wanted to say that you didn't want to say in front of Danita or ask or observe?
I think we have an option when you give an exam, there is a feedback as well. Like if you want to provide a feedback to a question, you can do that as well. I don't know how it gets processed later, but there were a couple of questions which were, I think I felt that they could have been reframed in a simplistic way rather than making them complex. So
You're
just
referring to
wanted
questions on the
questions
exam
in the
itself.
CMPP, yes,
Yeah.
for the exam, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it? 300 questions? Yeah, it's a lot.
150 questions.
Oh,
Yes. No,
okay.
300.
3 hours,
Yeah.
150.
3 hours.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't
So
want to panic anyone. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of items for sure. As Danita said, I mean, when I worked in medcoms, the received wisdom was everyone passes, like that was sort of what everyone said. Like, it's not a hard exam, and it is a lot of practical experience.
yes.
I guess, we've only got a few minutes in our hour, and I always want to respect our time. But my sense when I took the exam was it does call on sort of truly practical experiences, and a lot of them will be authorship issues. Like, so, you know, if you've had authors who were non-responsive or you know, difficulties dealing with a non-compliant client, or Susan, you could chime in, I'm sure, if we had more time, you know, and give. So you're, you know, as a freelancer, you're sort of, having been a fly on the wall for a lot of those dramas, is kind of what you'll be thinking of, I think, when you are taking the exam. Now, a lot of people here probably worked full-time at some point, and that you'll draw heavily on those lived experiences in our space. But it's in the space of, you know, of pharma-sponsored publications, and the sort of all the complexities of all the players in that space that the exam is speaking to. I'm going to give Susan the last word, I guess, and then we will go. Yeah.
I was just going to say that, going back to my point earlier, that it's very much based on experience, but all the questions, when we prepare new questions, they're not just based on people's opinions. Everything has to be referenced. So we reference them back to various guidelines and so on. So it's really true that using that critical study reference list is important, because that's where many of the questions will be linked to.
Thank you. Yeah. And I know Donna had put an item in the chat about the challenges for the credentialing committee of always making sure that all of the items were referenced back to, you know, guideline materials. Okay, well, everyone, thank you for being here today. Next month, we're going to be joined by, on August 18th, we're going to be joined by Lori DiMilto, who is a longtime friend of mine in the space, and she's an expert in marketing your freelance business and getting high-paying clients. So when Lori joins us on August 18th, she's going to talk a little bit about what, you know, her sort of what she's been doing in that space. And then we're going to just have a, you know, again, a lively chat and asking Lori questions, but also sharing amongst ourselves about how we get clients. So that's what we'll do in August. And September is actually going to be on with a wonderful MedComs mentor. So I'm not always going to have guests, but at the moment I'm on a roll bringing in people that I think will be really of interest to this community. So I'm going with that for now. So.
Great.
All right. Thank you everyone for joining today.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.